And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Tuesday morning showing IFR here from the Bering Strait across eastern Bering Sea, right along the Yukon Delta coast on down to the Alaska Peninsula. Marginal VFR for the eastern Aleutians, marginal for Adak and Atka, and then more IFR pushing in with another system out over the western Bering and Aleutians. IFR, north slope out to the Arctic coast, and some IFR here along the east side of Kodiak Island, southern Kenai Peninsula, Montague Island there, and over toward Cape St. Elias. Otherwise, pretty good in the interior, as well as the southeast coast. And for the afternoon, Panhandle stays VFR, marginal VFR, around Elfin Cove, Yakutat, into Prince William Sound, with IFR there for Montague Island, and IFR just on the east side of Fognak and Kodiak Island there, Chiniak and those areas, with IFR now farther inland here to the Yukon Delta and Nunivak Island, on down to Unalaska Island and the peninsula here, and kind of back up into portions of Norton Sound through the Bering Strait. IFR for the North Slope and Arctic coast continues, and this area out here to the west kind of expands eastward across Adak and Atka. And then for Wednesday morning, that pushes even farther to the east here, covering the Fox Islands, right up to the Pribilofs, back toward the central Aleutians, and another batch right on the heels of that first one there coming into the western Aleutians. Still IFR here along the west coast, especially over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta areas, North Slope Arctic coast. A little bit of improvement though for the Brooks Range, mostly VFR that extends all the way down into Cook Inlet now. Still looking at some IFR here for the western Gulf of Alaska. VFR holds for the southeast coast through the afternoon, maybe a little bit of marginal stuff up to the north there, but really pretty good here. Areas of marginal VFR, especially in the afternoon, with some developing showers here over the Alaska range of the Talkeetnas, into the mountainous terrain of the Kenai Peninsula. Good VFR elsewhere over interior Alaska, the exception being a little bit of IFR there over the southwestern North Slope. And big improvement here over the eastern Bering Sea, but a lot of marginal VFR left behind, with some IFR lingering there over western Bristol Bay, down to the Alaska Peninsula, but marginal for the remainder of the Aleutian chain. And for passes, Anatuvik and Adigan, IFR for both passes again tomorrow, and then probably improving for Wednesday. But Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR tomorrow. VFR forecast for rainy, windy, Isabel, and Mentasta. Tanita also going for VFR conditions. Portage though, marginal VFR, so a little bit of improvement there. Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels here at about 2,000 to 4,000 feet, central southern panhandle, and 2,000 feet here in over the southwest interior areas, and about 6,000 feet here out over the west central Aleutians. And for icing, weakening front pushing eastward here, and a thinning, narrowing band of considerable moderate rime icing associated with that there, starting to slide into Nikolsky there, exiting Atka Island in the afternoon. Otherwise, areas of possible isolated moderate icing here over interior Alaska, all the way down to the North Gulf Coast, maybe over the southwest interior, and portions of the Panhandle. Jet stream here, big area of upper level low pressure right over the Gulf of Alaska and the Northeast Pacific here. Northeast winds 65 knots in the interior, turn north 65, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. Strong southerly jet here, up to 115 knots, just clipping the southern Panhandle. Otherwise, the stronger west-northwest jet at about 120 knots, staying just south of the western Aleutians. And for the 9,000-foot winds, east-southeast 30 knots for the North Slope, especially out over the Arctic coast. North 40 knots, Alaska Peninsula. About 30 knots out of the northwest for Atka Island, and then picking up with a system farther to the west there toward the Komodorskis, about 70 knots. Low pressure south of Kodiak Island here. Light winds in the interior, 40 knots there over toward Misty Fjords in the southern Panhandle. 3,000 feet though, light winds across the southeast coast. Most of the Gulf, a little bit of a 35 knot east wind there across Fognak and the Barren Islands. Light in the interior, east 40 knots there for the central and eastern Arctic coast, and northwest 35 knots around False Pass, maybe Cold Bay there, and then west-northwest 35 to 45 knots for the central and western Aleutians. And for turbulence, isolated moderate chop there on Alaska Island, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, and from Matka Island westward, becoming a little more in the considerable moderate zone for Shimmy and Attu. And with those east winds up here for the Arctic coast, look for light, isolated, moderate turbulence, especially for smaller aircraft, surface to about 4,000 feet.